Hello, I am Stephanie Joy, the attorney at All Things Social Security and Joy Disability Law. Your video is about to start. I just wanted to remind you that if you click the join button below, you can learn more about the memberships offered at a very affordable price that can give you a little more direct attorney answers to your questions. Have a great day and enjoy the video. Good morning or afternoon, whenever you're seeing this. Okay, this is an interesting event here, and it concerns 820 and 821, all with the same person. So we believe that the 820 and 821 was sent to this person potentially due to a conversation where there was maybe a misunderstanding that the work done for an employer was more hours than super minimal. Not really sure because I wasn't there for the conversation. And I'm trying to assist the person in avoiding an overpayment. I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think it's all going to work out just fine. We've been spending many, many days going through pay stubs and everything else. But what I wanted to bring up about this was the person's been disabled due to listing level blindness since, I want to say 1995. And when this whole issue came up, probably just in the last few months, the SSA's 820 and 821 is demanded back to 1995. The person only started working for an employer very part-time in 2020. But it's interesting because the SSA often says it doesn't have information going back that far. So pretty funny that they would expect an individual to have such information going back to 1995. Now, of course, what we do have is the annual Social Security earnings statement that any of us, in theory, can get online. Speaking of which, I still haven't gotten into login.gov. I tried, but I didn't see anything in there. So I'm good with my own tech that I kind of am involved in obtaining, learning, and then using it the way my practice works best and my interaction with my people. But give me someone else's, and I'm just as clueless as so many of you might be. So I don't have mine. But anyway, this smart cookie does have hers. And there's like big gaps after 1995. 1995, I think, like I said, was the year maybe of the disability. So that one wasn't necessarily under SGA. I believe it was not at that time because it wasn't disabled under the law at that time. But then there's a ton of years where you're unemployed or self-employed, doing odd jobs, that kind of thing. So that's the trickier part, guys. The unemployed years, and again, going back almost 30 years, I think that's unreasonable, but it is what it is. And fortunately, many of those years have zeros in them. So I think it's just kind of a lazy person that was up in the field office deciding that they wanted this. So we're putting in, dozens and dozens and dozens of hours because that's what you have to do when the hammer comes down like that. Because the burden is going to end up being on us to prove that we're not SGA. So the self-employed years, if you have not kept all of your tax returns forever, and this is why I say, I don't care that someone says 7 years, I would keep them forever, guys. I just would. I know I don't have mine from when I was young, but I certainly have them now, probably for 20 years. So we don't have maybe more than 9 years worth of tax returns, I think. Something like that. There's going to be a group of years that don't have it, but they might be 0 years anyway. I mean, if you have zero income, you're not filing a return, right? And another point I wanted to make out was for any self-employed years that we do not have a tax return for, but we have that total amount that's on the Social Security annual earnings statement, and we know that was all self-employed income, we're going to roll with that. And then if she doesn't have her calendars that said when she did a little job for somebody or what have you, who keeps that for 30 years, then the best we can do, and I believe it should suffice, is, the person completing an SSA 795 that we can attach to the 821. Technically, with the 821 being signed, I don't even know that you'd have to do a 795. I'm doing a 795 and helping her put it together substance-wise because we're going to go through every year. And I want it to be laid out and clear. And a 795 is what you, as the witness who knows your situation, and you could say, as I recall, as a general rule, there were no months I worked more than, 10 hours a week or 3 hours a week or 7 hours a month. It was very sporadic, whatever the case may be. 795 is where you would be explaining that. I do not have that paperwork anymore since it's so antiquated and old. But this is my firm recollection. There was no fab, like let's say she made $4,000 a year. You want to prove that $4,000 was not made all in one month, which would be an SGA month. Or let's say it was made way back when, if it was 1,000, 4 months of $1,000. And if that was over SGA for those years long ago, because now SGA is 1,550 in 2024, but it was far less back then, that would be 4 months of SGA. That may or may not be critical. But what if you're also doing your trial work period, like you kicked it in, not even thinking, and now that's 4 trial work period months out of the 9, and who knows if the other 9 fall in there, and that you could very well right now be out of your EPE, extended period of eligibility, which started after your trial work period ended. We have some videos, guys, on trial work period. There's a playlist, and I think there's a playlist on SGA and EPE, extended period of eligibility. There might be also. Other than that, there's definitely videos. So we're going to be figuring all this out because she may as well know whether she's, expired her TWP, which, by the way, might not be a big deal because she's listing level blind. So I'll have to go look at what, I'll have to go look, but I don't know that TWP, and don't hold me to it, would be relevant for a person who is listing level blind, because no matter what they're doing, as long as they're not SGA, they are, and that's a different number, right? The SGA for blind individuals is much higher than for the rest of you. So it will be interesting because now we're going to probably for the first time in 30 years of being a beneficiary, finding out where each month is at. So it will just be good for the person to know, wow, I have 2 months left in this 5-year rolling period of TWP. I don't want to necessarily, maybe I want to be more careful and not pop out of TWP. For other people, not necessarily this one, because again, listing level blindness or listing level and blindness that is not going to be cured can be different. Trying to think what else I could tell you. You have to go on that Social Security earnings statement and then use your best recollection. And also, if you, when you reported your earnings, did not deduct, like with a Schedule C, which is what it would generally be on, there might be alternatives, but I do mine on the Schedule C. You put all your business expenses. Some people just don't bother and they just put on their gross revenue. In this day and age, there would be probably not 1995, but in today's era, you would have probably cell phone. Almost every small business relies on a cell phone substantially. There could be internet if you were doing anything over the internet. You might not be writing off your entire internet bill. It might be only half or a quarter, depending on if you use it elsewhere in the house. But, it would be a business expense most likely. If you have an office, home office. That could be a business, which would bring down that annual revenue you pulled in on that 1099. Well, you don't, let's assume you don't have a 1099 if you're self-employed. A lot of self-employed people do, but that's different. She did not, I'm pretty sure. So it is possible if your tax returns show your self-employed income to be higher than is helpful, like in an instance such as you work for an employer and you do a little self-employed, and what if in 1 month it puts you over SGA? You can put in your information that you attach to a letter or potentially to an 820 or an 821 saying, but this is my business expenses that are not deducted yet from that. So when you count that self-employed income, you need to subtract out XYZ for every single month. And if there's a one-time month expense, that would be for the 1 month. If you spend something once, but it covers the whole year, let's say you bought a computer, that would probably be spread out over a few years. You can write a little bit off each month. Anyway, super important because it can get you under that SGA. We don't want to be, and remember, if you're over SGA too much, or for too long of a period steady, or potentially over the whole year, as a self-employed, you're going to lose your disability, notwithstanding trial work period or not. So the monies alone will do it. That's the black and white. So this is what we're having fun with this weekend. But I think it's a really, really important point to drive home to everyone who's working W-2 with regard to 820s, 821s, and self-employed with regard to 820s, and how to really, with care. I've seen people, and this is where they end up going to hearing, because the SSA is not taking, you have to be really, really meticulous when you document for the SSA what the expenses were, what comes out. Because you need to know if what you're saying to them puts you over or under. If you just talk about them and you don't know if you're over or under, you're really doing yourself a disservice, because it might be that you haven't listed them all. You didn't realize that. Maybe you can go find out what more could I have expensed out that I could have shared with them that I didn't. And now I'm stuck with they're ceasing my benefits, and I am appealing to an ALJ hearing, but you don't want to have to do that. So we're trying to be very meticulous here. I did request, I don't, by the way, represent her before the SSA. I'm just doing this all from behind the scenes, but I did send a letter on her behalf asking that they give her an additional 2 to 4 weeks to put this together. Number one, I was uber busy and I've had a bunch of medical emergencies in my house. Not mine, guys. That mine seem to be slowly oozing out from the September debacle. I have some stuff in November to finish it off, but not my husband. I think I told some of you, stricken with Bell's palsy, and it is not fun. And right now it's a very painful mode. So I am very concerned about that. But anyway, so we're going around many doctor visits and all this kind of stuff. So it's interfering with doing some of this extra stuff outside of my regular work. And of course, outside of videos, it's kind of interfering too. So anyway, so but it's a good share because there's a lot of people out there that are doing things such as Ubering, lifting, self-employed, little bit, you know, and they're definitely medically disabled, and you just want to be super careful. It's easier to be super careful when you're a W-2er, but you have to make sure you keep those hours down and watch those raises. If those raises are going to put you over, you might want to think twice about the raise, because you might get the raise, but you're going to lose your benefits. So take that home, guys. I will talk to you later. There might be some other things I bring up about this particular 820, 821 project we're working on. That might be a good share for later. I'll talk to you later. Bye.